Dear Leandra, it's been 8 days since I was tested COVID positive. It is true that close family members who are affected but not infected by COVID-19 do bear the lingering and debilitating impact of COVID-19 as well. So much of attention is given to those who are infected, and we neglect the close family who are part and parcel of the experience. Let me explain, just so that I myself can listen to what I mean and articulate it in a way that makes sense. Firstly, by exposure, we trigger the physical symptoms of COVID-19. We get infected, and that is what we initially experience: fever, headache, body pains, difficulty breathing, etc. On the 19th of August 2021, I experienced some of those symptoms, and that is why I got tested immediately. I tested positive. We had already decided that the best way to respond to a positive result would be with a positive mindset. Secondly, what is not revealed in a pathology report is the accompanying mental and emotional trauma that is real because of the default consequence of catastrophic thinking when someone hears that they are COVID-19 positive. This too is experienced by most people who are tested positive. It is an automatic consequence that cannot be easily quantified and measured, but it is real. They are, in my opinion, more dangerous than the physical symptoms that we feel. Negative, debilitating thoughts, though not therapeutic nor helpful, is hard to avoid or dismiss, but even more difficult to navigate through. Now listen carefully. The bodily symptoms in those who are infected triggers a more deadly virus. A virus with a determined agenda to cripple the mechanism that facilitates healing and physical restoration of the body, the mind. The COVID-19 virus only gets the upper hand when the mind, your defense mechanism to fight, is rendered incapacitated. Remember, there is an intimate connection between the body and the mind. Why is that so? It is because we are composite beings. We are composite beings, and improvement in one area affects the other. We are spiritual, mental, emotional, social, and physical beings. And activity, choice, direction, momentum, belief, and change in one area affects the whole. It's like a chain reaction. Therefore, seek to live a balanced life. I am not talking about a balanced diet, but balance in every aspect of your life: the physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, intellectual, relational, and social. A neglect or improvement in any part affects the whole. Let me take you back in time a bit and tell you about an interesting experiment that was performed in 1972 by brain researcher Paul Peach. Not many people know about this experiment, so you can count yourself among the privileged few from today. There are current research that prove the same conclusion of his experiment, but I like to refer to this one in particular for 3 reasons. Number one, because it was conducted in the year that I was born. So the veracity of it goes back 48 years. It is like a fact established when I was born, and if creatively reframed, it might have been a hint of my calling and what I would be teaching and advocating for the rest of my life. I like to think that I am a living example of what was proved by the experiment in the year that I was born. That I will tell you in about a minute. Personally, I don't think it is a random coincidence. But before I get carried away, let me tell you the second reason. It is quite simple. The researcher's first name was Paul, so is mine. But most importantly, number 3, Paul, through his research, proved that the control center of the body is the brain. Today, this is assumed knowledge, taken for granted. This is an established fact. But back then, the fact was still being established. He dramatically demonstrated the fact that body activity is under direct control of the brain. Paul Pitch removed the brain of a salamander, an animal that normally feeds on worms and other invertebrate animals, and transplanted in its place the brain of a leopard frog tadpole, an animal that feeds on plant life. Surprisingly, the salamander survived the operation. The brain transplant was not the marvelous accomplishment or phenomenal discovery. No, the amazing discovery was that the salamander survived the operation, and thereafter it refused to eat worms, but fed instead on the plant life that the tadpole normally eats. That was the remarkable phenomenon. This reminds me of a statement published in the year 1905, 115 years ago and 67 years before this experiment. In the book Ministry of Healing, page 241, Ellen White spoke of the influence of the mind in curing disease. She wrote, "The relation that exists between the mind and the body is very intimate. The condition of the mind affects the health to a far greater degree than many realize. Disease is sometimes produced and is often greatly aggravated by the imagination. Many who are lifelong invalids, who might as well be well today, would have been if they only thought so." Now, recent scientific literature provides strong confirmation as well. Just a side note, in the 1800s and 1900s, imagination meant what and how you thought. I think it still does today. The brain has a remarkable effect on the body. If COVID-19 was a bacteria, as some reports suggest, then the disinfectant would be our minds. If COVID-19 was a poison, which it is not, then the antidote would have been our thoughts. But because COVID-19 is a virus, then the neural vaccine is healthy thoughts in our minds to reframe the process and outcome. Never underestimate the therapeutic healing power of the human mind to regenerate and restore physical health. This letter and this video now is not to give you a lecture about COVID-19. That you already know and still knowing. You are becoming a doctor, so you know more about the pathology of the virus than me. This conversation has a very specific intention to it, to give perspective to our loved ones on the effects of COVID-19 on those who are intimately related to those who are COVID-19 positive, like you. This message is so important that I wanted to convert it into a video for you to watch and to share with others as an audio-visual reinforcement. I believe that what's worth remembering is worth repeating. What I am sharing with you is not just valuable for the duration of the pandemic. If you consider its value and apply it in any aspect of your life, then every aspect of your life will become better. Now let's zoom in. While exposure to the virus triggers the physical bodily symptoms in those who are infected, like I was, the news of a loved one or the news that a loved one is infected with COVID-19 virus can trigger symptoms of an equally dangerous nature in the minds of those who are infected and affected by association and relationship, and if not addressed, can lead to unintended consequences. Your mom, brother, and I are infected with the virus, but you are affected and not infected. Remember, we are composite beings. And there is a very specific reason why God created us like that. And one part of that composition is that we are social and relational beings. The closeness of the relationship will determine the extent of the impact. It is not just clinical, hypothetical, or theoretical for you. It is real. And just as the physical effects of COVID cannot be downplayed, in the same breath, the emotional, mental, and spiritual must not be ignored or downplayed as well. Listen, sweetheart, the virus affects the body, but it cannot, without permission, attack the mind. That is why, like a stealthy enemy, it tries to take over our sophisticated defenses simultaneously, our minds and the thoughts we think. It knows that robust health in one area can significantly infuse vitality into the others. It knows that if the mind is stable and energized, then that positive energy will filter into the body and can override the physical effects. Then equilibrium for the body is inevitable. When we adopt negative and catastrophic thinking, resulting in stress and lack of perspective, we are working against ourselves and a natural system inherent with the mechanism to protect itself to become better. That is why today, the 27th of August, while I am recovering from COVID-19, I made a note in my COVID-19 diary. I have been sanitizing everything from the door handle to the cup I drink from to have a clean, virus-free environment. However, the most important environment is not outside the body, but inside. It is the mind. I have sanitized my mind and keeping it so clean that the virus is finding it very difficult to find a permanent residence. This is my mind. And I will allow what rules it, not some unwanted rogue coward virus. To echo the words of BTS, not today, no, not today. Today is my day and I am in charge. God gave it to me and with his permission to make it a great day. The virus is no respecter of persons, but I am giving this abominable thing an opportunity to bow out graciously and accept defeat, or I will kill it myself. Either way, I have no place or time for it. This is who I am. I have allowed people and systems take advantage of me, and I have submitted to my disadvantage in the past, but no more. This virus will not get the best of me. I don't care if the whole world is scared. I am not the whole world. I am Paul Charles, and this mind is my world. Later, I wrote in my diary, I believe that your environment is important. Your mind is the most vast environment in every respect. As I have excluded negative comments and negative people during this time, to keep my mind sane and sober during my healing, I also wanted to detoxify my room. So I have a freshly chopped onion at my bedside. I keep my room clean. Health is related to hygiene. I want my room to not be a sick room. It is a healing room. The virus should find it uncomfortable to stay here, and it must commit suicide or flee. You know what I mean, right? That is why after the conversation with our doctor, I had to make another entry in my journey. Here it is. I have the title deed to my body and not some looter. The virus does not belong in here. I am not fighting to live. The virus is fighting to live. I am already living and getting stronger. This virus is just a fly-by-night, incompetent rogue that has been caught with his pants down. I am conditioning my body to sympathize with my mind and not the other way around. Now, don't underestimate the power of your mind over your body in both cases to accelerate the spread of disease and to decrease the impact of sickness and disease. The doctor said that I should expect things to get worse. The doctors are experts in their own right, and I respect that. But no expert opinion is going to tell me that I must expect to get worse when I am expecting to get better. My opinion, rather than the doctor's, matters more. It is the problem with many of us and has been a problem in the past. I lived up to the expectations of others who didn't really know me. I mean the real me, and wasted important segments of my life, but not anymore. I am more interested in me than anyone else, and my expectations for myself must take precedence over anyone else's. It seems that the doctor knows the virus, but does not know me. I wish more doctors would treat the patient instead of the disease. You will graduate soon, Leanne, as a medical doctor, and I am proud of you. Please remember the words of your layman dad, a patient during COVID-19, that we are composite beings and a more comprehensive approach to healing must be embraced to improve the rate of healing and the overall efficacy of conventional medical interventions. Sweetheart, if we are not infected, then we are affected by COVID-19. None are exempt from its effects. There is a lot of talk about building our immune systems during this time, but we are neglecting a critical factor in the equation. We are not just physical beings. We are mental, emotional, spiritual, and social beings. And what happens in one part of our lives affects the entire being. Therefore, we need to adopt a more holistic view of what is happening around us and how to respond to it. I believe that we need to also build emotional and mental immunity during this time. We are being bombarded with news, updates, stories, statistics, notices, etc. This overload is causing a malfunction in many people. People are adopting catastrophic thinking. We need to take proactive steps to protect ourselves against the negative mental and emotional effects of COVID-19. We need to take proactive steps to protect ourselves against the negative and emotional effects of COVID-19. Among many global health, economic, and social disruptions, the COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak has forced hundreds of millions to physically isolate. Combine that with extensive news coverage of the pandemic and an unknown future, and it's no wonder that anxiety is on the rise. Global issues like this can feel incredibly overwhelming because there is so much uncertainty around it. Now, sweetheart, while everyone reacts to stressful situations differently, stress during an infectious disease outbreak can include fear and worry about our own health and the health of our loved ones. Changes in sleep or eating patterns, difficulty breathing or concentrating, worsening of chronic health problems, anxiety about the future. Now, I know you know these things, but remember, reminding ourselves won't hurt us, right? I teach the course Business Resilience, Thriving in a Disruptive Global Market. In one module, I teach about paradigms, and in lesson 22, I teach the following, verbatim, I will tell you. So listen carefully. These paradigm changes are especially important for all of us because whether it is in business, health, religion, or education, or politics, or personal lives, A paradigm change, by definition, alters the basic rules of the game. And when the rules change, the whole world can change. It is as important to understand who are the paradigm shifters, the people who change the rules, as it is important to know when they show up. Paradigm pioneers bring the critical mass of brain power and effort and key resources necessary to drive the new rules into reality. Every paradigm, that is a period of time, has a range of problems it can solve. The more powerful the paradigm, the more problems it will solve over time. We solve simple problems first, and as time progresses, while celebrating our victories, that is, successfully solved problems, tougher problems that could not be solved accumulates. Harder problems take longer to solve, cost more to solve, give you less chance to demonstrate how good a problem solver you are. So we set them aside. By the time we get to the end of an era or a paradigm, all that remains are the toughest, most sophisticated problems of the paradigm. It is this predicament that makes a new paradigm shift imperative. A classic example is the result of the COVID-19 global pandemic. While trying to find solutions to flatten the curve, another bigger problem was looming: the global mental and emotional depression crisis. People who are prepared for that stand a chance to make a lot of money. So paradigms, by their nature, uncover and identify problems they will never solve. It is through this ongoing process that the stage is set for a paradigm shift. The vaccine might solve one problem, but just one. It does not solve the rest, which has a longer lasting and staying power. The seeds of succession are sown and begin to germinate even while the paradigm is still vigorous. The critical mass is put in place and awaits the paradigm shifter. In other words, we need a new paradigm to address the global mental and emotional depression crisis, highlighted and also exacerbated by COVID-19. And in this regard, we can't wait for big pharmaceuticals, for government or experts. The onus is on us as individuals. We are the change we have been waiting for. My recovery from COVID-19 highlighted what I advocate. The patient must be the key partner in the healing process. Healing is never imposed, it is embraced. I am responsible for me and you are responsible for you. The doctor, with all due respect, is a facilitator and must be humble enough to acknowledge this dynamic duo, this dynamic partnership. Now, why am I sharing this with you? As soon as you finished high school, you left for Australia without us. We sent you in a whole new world alone. We could not afford to travel with you. When the pandemic was reaching global proportions and countries were closing their borders, you were back home in South Africa on a break. I remember the traumatic time like it was just yesterday. By a miracle, you arrived back in Australia just 2 hours before final closing of the borders on a ticket that cost more than 4 times the regular price. It was a close call. When you heard that I was diagnosed COVID-19 positive, you were worried, naturally. And then, when you heard that your brother and mother as well were positive, I can imagine how you must have felt. But you handled it well, with what I call mental and emotional equilibrium. I believe you mirrored what we demonstrated, and we also reflected your spirit while doing what was medically necessary for our healing. We were healing at a much better rate, not because we are or were more special or exempt from the harsh effects. We felt them, yes we did, but we healed and laughed and was happy during the entire healing process because of a particular mindset, good family relationships, emotional stability, mental equilibrium, prayer, and doing what was necessary physically. It was a comprehensive approach to healing. Not everyone is privileged like we are, but it is everyone's right to be so privileged. I wish more people would realize that an intentional investment in one, learning how to think and embrace a proactive, resilient growth mindset. Number two, develop few but dependable, loving, healthy relationships. And number three, that people will realize this before a crisis. This is why you get through a crisis. It is better to prepare than to repair. Thank you for being with us in our journey, even though you were far away. Thank you for not adopting catastrophic thinking. Thank you for not showing us how much you know, but showed us how much you care. I am proud of you. You handled this experience very well. And your brother did the same on this side. Where is that little girl that played outside with our wheelbarrow? She is now out of the continent, preparing to make a difference in the world. As a father and husband, I am happy that we are better and not bitter after COVID-19. Hey Lee, weren't we always like this? COVID-19 merely showed us who we always were, resilient. May we always be resilient. Remember, our choices and thinking of yesterday brought us to today, and the future is not something out there. It is being created today by the way that we think. Let's create a healthy, exciting, and resilient future for us and everyone. I want to teach this to help the world during the post-COVID-19 period. I was self-quarantined for a week, and it might seem selfish to say this, but when my wife and son were also tested positive, we all became more relaxed. Isolation, which is considered a proactive response to the virus, gives rise to another series of problems related to mental and emotional well-being. That is why I am passionate and advocate the cause, equilibrium, maintaining mental and emotional well-being during and after COVID-19. We developed this course at the beginning of the pandemic, and it is the very thing that I prepared to help others, prepared me and helped me through the ordeal that I was helping everyone else through. It works. We need to take proactive steps to protect ourselves against the negative mental and emotional effects of COVID-19. Being prepared is the best protection against the stresses associated with COVID-19. It works. I am proof of concept. Our family was always positive before COVID, and then we became COVID-19 positive during COVID. And now that we left COVID behind, let us continue to be positive. We do not get our mood from the circumstance around us, and we have jurisdiction over our lives as long as we live. Let history remember us as overcomers, resilient and courageous, who were thinkers and not mere reflectors of other men's thoughts. What we need as a companion to the medical interventions today and in the future is a dose of the ancient wisdom, a renewing of the mind. Because as a man thinks, so is he.
COVID-19 disrupted the world as we knew it. Don't let COVID-19 get the better of you. Take proactive steps to protect yourself against the negative mental and emotional effects of COVID-19. You don't have to feel overwhelmed, powerless, or incapacitated. Register for Equilibrium, maintaining mental and emotional well-being today. learn the art and skill of maintaining mental and emotional well-being. This is your first and best investment post-COVID-19. Show COVID-19 who's the boss. Bounce back to equilibrium.